Welcome to Press Turn. We are a video game podcast. Wow, that intro was terrible. We're just gonna keep going. I'll get it right eventually. Uh, and I'm the host. My name is Sam, and with me I have Derek and David today.
Hello.
Hello.
And this is just basically a casual podcast where we talk about video games. We're if you don't know at this point, we're all writers for the Geeks Under Grace video game department. Although once again, Derek mostly focuses on the tabletop games. Um, and but Yeah, that's basically it. We're just gonna go into our weeks. Um, Unfortunately, a bit of a slow news week. Nothing particularly too interesting. Um, so yeah, no boring news this time. We're just gonna talk about stuff. David, why don't you go first? What have you been up to? Because it's been a while. You grew a beard since you've been gone.
That I did. Um, haven't been doing much. Just a lot of working, and I haven't actually had much time to play games recently.
You did get Pokemon Snap though, right? Did I screw that up? Or is
No,
that true?
I got it. Yeah, and
Have you start? Did you begin it?
I played it. I've maybe an hour or so into it over the past couple days.
Okay, I have questions because I have a 7-year-old who doesn't really get into Pokemon, but her aunt that she loves is into Pokemon, and I'm afraid if I get this for her, it'll either be a $60 waste of time or it's going to cost me like $500 because she's going to start loving Pokemon. So, can you how's this even work? Is there like a main quest, or do you just literally just take pictures all day?
There is a main quest, and you unlock new areas where that have new Pokemon to take pictures of. I just don't know how long the quest is.
But I mean, I'm trying to understand. Everybody in the chat is saying this game is so addictive. From my understanding, there's no combat or anything, right? Not much of a story. You just walk around and take pictures of Pokemon.
Yeah, pretty much. You're on a track, and you just take pictures as you pass by the Pokemon, and you try to get them in different behaviors and different times of day.
Yeah, I haven't played it a whole lot, but from what I understand, yes, it's mainly just a photo snapping game, but you're graded on each photo shot, and you're basically graded on like the best shots you can take of each Pokemon. And the premise is like Professor Oak from the original one, anyway. Um, you're helping him get uh, perform research, basically. And so yeah, obviously like you want the best photographs as possible because he wants to get photographs of like their behaviors, any specific unique markings between certain Pokemon. I don't know if that was really a thing, but I know that's like one of the details that they have in mind. Um, so I guess in my case, like I'm kind of curious, David, have you played the original before?
Oh yeah, I grew up with it. I love it still.
Uh, so like, what are the differences so far that you've noticed between this one and the old one?
Um, Obviously, the items that you can throw are different. They're not quite the same. The new one has a scanning um, ability where you can scan different things in the environment. Um, and then some of the tracks seem shorter than the original, but
Uh,
um,
like how do you mean shorter?
like you're on a specific course, and it seems like it can be over faster than the original game in any particular level.
Oh, so like it the course runs faster compared to the older game.
It seems like it. I could be wrong, but when I'm in the middle of it, it just kind of seems like that was over kind of fast.
Hmm.
Maybe it's
Uh,
just that fun.
It could be.
well, because I know in the original you had to find secret tracks in order to unlock new ones. Is it very apparent what the secret tracks are?
Um, they're not really that secret. It's just the more pictures you take and the more it grades you, you get a higher research score, and then up as you level up, it unlocks that same track at night, and then it'll go on to the next part of the story, and then I'm assuming with the third one, the third level, it'll unlock after that. I've only made it to the second level.
Oh, so oh well, okay. Could yeah, you haven't completely gone through it yet, so all right, interesting. Uh,
So 200 hours into Animal Crossing, my 7-year-old goes, "Dad, what's the point of this game?" And I was like, "I don't know."
I remember that from the chat. That was really
I'm
funny.
get I'm getting similar vibes here, but I could be wrong. I guess at least the fact that it has a main quest with like presumably an ending.
Yeah,
Maybe
it
it's
does.
one of those things. Maybe I just don't get it.
It's a story where you're helping a professor research the Illumina phenomenon in this particular region.
Maybe that hits too
Observe.
close to home for a professor.
It's basically homework for professors. uh,
Yeah.
uh, well, actually, I'm curious. Like, what, Derek? What games does your daughter like then?
Well, she likes Animal Crossing a lot, but she kind of just realized like I'm in a trap forever, and I'm never gonna get out of this game.
Oh,
She
okay.
just
So,
she
so,
just beat Mar.
so it's really she just had an existential crisis.
Yeah, because
Okay.
she used to be really into these phone games that are like My City and My Play Home, and there's another one that were basically Animal Crossings but with purchases. So I was like, you know what, we're slamming 60 down so that you don't pay 300 on buy this app, buy this app, buy this app.
Mm,
And she went deep in Animal Crossing for a long time, but then after that, she just beat. So like a year ago, we played Yoshi co-op. She played that with my wife, and then she and I played Luigi's Mansion 3, and she played Kirby mostly by herself. Um, but then this year, she just beat Mario 3D World by herself, so she's getting pretty good.
mm.
I, my wife and I are only on the site. We just got to the second world in 3D World a few weeks ago, and so she was like, "Dad, I'm farther than you. Look how far I am, and you guys didn't even get past this." It's not like we're stuck. We just haven't had time to sit down and play it.
Yeah, she'll understand one day.
Actually, that's a good transition, I guess. David, were there other games that you talked about, or you want me to run here?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
So, I guess I'll talk about that first because then after she beat 3D World, she's like, "Well, Dad, what do we do next?" And I'm like, "I got more Mario games because the Switch has like 10 Mario platformers on it." So, I had bought the physical copy of 3D All Stars back around Christmas time,
Mm.
knowing that if it sucked, I could probably flip it, which maybe I will at some point. Um, but so I also have like she had started New Super Mario Brothers U a while back, but it was too hard. But she's gotten better. But anyway, so I was like, well, the closest thing's probably Mario Galaxy. So she started that, but I bought it also because I'm on the quest to like beat every mainline Final Fantasy, beat every mainline Dragon Quest, and basically like 5 or 6 series. And it also occurred to me I've almost beaten every Mario mainline game. And so the ones I have left, I never had an N64, so I've never beaten Mario 64. I've never beaten Mario Sunshine, and I've never beaten Mario Galaxy 2, and then 3D World. Those are the 4 left. So I've got them all now, except I need to hunt down Galaxy 2. But when I played Mario Sunshine on the GameCube, I did not get very far at all. I got so frustrated with the controls. So I started Mario Sunshine, I think, last night.
Mm-hmm.
And when 3D All Stars came out, they didn't. There was no option to invert the controls, which I feel like in 2021 is just ridiculous. But I guess they added it in an update. So once I was able to invert everything, I was like, okay, this is tolerable. Although really weirdly, the flood thing, I wanted that to go in the opposite direction at first, but I wanted the camera to go inverted. So, but it had options for everything.
Mm.
And so now I'm wondering, is maybe I've been an inverted camera person my whole life, and that's why I hated Sunshine when it came out, because I bet you didn't have the option on GameCube.
You did
Or
not. I definitely remember that.
well, maybe that's why I hated the game so much, because I just couldn't stand how the camera worked. But so I've only gotten like the first couple stars. I think stars in that game. They seem to switch between stars and coins and moons and whatever every Mario game. So I've started that, and it's not like blowing my mind, but it is almost 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm gonna commit, sit down with that. My wife has beaten Mario 64 like 4 times, so she can help me through that one. And then watching her play Mario Galaxy was pretty nostalgic. I was like, I remember how to do this. Honestly, just the way Mario Galaxy is set up, where that you like don't fall off the stage and you can run around in circles around the little planets. Like you never really get that vibe in any of the other Mario games. Um, so yeah, so I started that, but then the main thing I did from last time is that I have played all the way through and beaten Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, and uh, man, I'm so torn about this game. So first off, if I guess if you're a person that cares about canon, you probably shouldn't be playing Zelda games anyway, since there's like three timelines and the two different canonical sets of timelines between the books. But they really build that game as a prequel to Breath of the Wild. And I don't want to get too spoilerly, but there's a very obvious point in that game where it's like, oh, you were doing something different, and this is not the prequel because this is not the same timeline at all.
Mm-hmm.
But then even before, and that point's really obvious, but even before that point, what they do before that does not match what they say happens in Breath of the Wild. So it is in no way canonically compatible with Breath of the Wild at all. It looks the same voice actors and actors, not Link, but everybody else. But it does not match. The combat, I just feel like I really did not like the first Hyrule Warriors because especially just felt like fan fiction goofing off. Like, what if you put everybody in a blender? Which I guess is what that series is. But I mean, I play Zelda mostly for the puzzles, and then recently, like Breath of the Wild had a great story, and this had an okay story even once I had just kind of turned my brain off. But I feel like with action games, I don't play action games that much, but I feel like I just played Hades, and Hades is a great example of less is more. Like you can really just get started with that game real quickly, and then it kind of grows and delves into it. These Warriors games are just like, what if you just put everything to 11 except
Yeah.
12 actually? And I don't, that doesn't jive with me. Like there's one part where the objective was to like get 30,000 KOs. I'm like, this is just nonsense. And there were a couple times it lagged because it couldn't handle all the enemies on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think maybe I could have tried to co-op with my daughter and she might have enjoyed it. But and I did let towards the end start playing with other characters, and it was cool how distinctive they were. There were a couple characters you got to play as that I was like, okay, that's cool. But one thing I did appreciate is that it did have a very clear 100% system if you wanted to like max out everything, which Nintendo has sucked at for a long time. But it seems like their most recent games, they've been pretty clear about having in-game counters for completion. Um, it wasn't bad. The acting was well done. The cutscenes were cool. I mean, the story, if you think about it alone, I guess was fine. I'm glad I played it, but I wouldn't play it again. I guess.
They have a Fire Emblem version of it.
Yeah, but that's even more non-canonical. That's more like the first Hyrule Warriors.
I will say this. That's that's the biggest problem with Tecmo Koei and their Warriors series, or sorry, their franchise now. Is that uh like it's gotten to a point where the Warriors games, if they take their time to teach you everything, you're basically stuck in the tutorial level forever. Like there's too
Accurate.
much to talk about. That's the problem. And it becomes more problematic when it's a game tied to like a franchise. Even even games that are one to one just Warriors clones, like Hyrule Warriors, or I guess even like oh goodness, what's
Persona 5 Strikers is also a Warriors game, right? Or is that wrong?
which one?
Persona 5 Strikers.
Yeah, but see, the problem is Persona 5 Strikers probably plays the most different compared to all of the spin-offs actually. Because I don't know if you've played the demo, but Persona 5 Strikers doesn't play like a Warriors game. Not really, anyway. It actually plays more like an action RPG. Um, so much to the point that it's like battles are actually hard in that game. Um, because you can't just like throw yourself against the wave, because if you do you'll die like very fast. Um, uh, I'll get back to that in a bit, because I was gonna recommend that to you, but just to wrap up my point, um, like I think one of the biggest problems with the developer Omega Force is that they're kind of so far in that there's no real good way to really reinvent the gameplay that they're best known for. You know what I mean? Like even their last Dynasty Warriors game, which I think is like in the West it's the ninth title, but really it's like the 12th or 13th, I think, or something. Um, like like nine just tries to um, they just try something different, but it doesn't really work because now it's like because now like you do a tutorial section that's like hours long and you don't really feel like you're getting anywhere compared to previous Warriors titles where it's like everything is so breakneck fast that like slowing it down basically ruins that initial fun feeling of playing a Warriors games. And I guess that's really the problem is like uh, even for the people who enjoy the core gameplay of a Warriors game is it it's hampered down by repetition. But then if you try to change it up or add something new to it, um, it gets hampered down immediately by having to understand new mechanics.
I get your point, but I didn't think the combat was like terrible. By the end, I had most of it gelled down. There were a couple
Okay.
of things I was still unsure about, but the main thing for me was that I like I saw really good reviews for Persona 5 Strikers,
Mm-hmm.
and the a lot of what I saw was, hey, the story is actually really good and a nice continuation of Persona 5. But what I saw here was like the only reason I picked this game up because I did not like the first Hyrule Wars was this is a prequel to Breath of the Wild. I'm like, okay, this is one of my favorite games. I want to see the story, but then it's not. It really is not compatible with Breath of the Wild at all. So that together was like, well, why did I do this? If it had been, if they had delivered a really good story that was like compatible with Breath of the Wild, and then maybe showed you a little extra, that would have been much better. But the lack of, and I didn't need like a deep story. I know it's an action game,
Yeah.
but I wanted something better than what I got.
Well, I mean, I will say this: I do know for a fact that Persona 5 Strikers story was worked on by the original story creators for Persona 5. So, like, I think it's very clear that you can't really leave everything up to Omega Force to handle, um, because their best quality is their gameplay, really. Um, but yeah, that being said, I would say you should try you should try Persona 5 Strikers, honestly, because that might give you more that might give you more to go on, and the story actually is a lot more interesting because it basically plays like Persona 5, but you're playing but with like semi warriors action gameplay.
Two counterpoints to that. First off, I also read that the supposedly the story writers for Breath of the Wild worked closely with Omega Force on this one, but like, come on, closely I guess is a loose definition. But
Yeah.
also, I don't play in rated games, so I'm not
Oh yeah, that's
also,
right. Right, right, right.
but also I'm not like eager to play more action games. I only did this because it was a Breath of the Wild, prequel.
I think I feel like I saw Persona 5 Strikers was
It was
rated
on
teen.
sale
Hang
actually
on.
too.
Hang on real
Well,
quick.
sure, but if it's rated teen, if it's a continuation of the story that I never played because I never played Persona 5, then it's not that exciting. But yeah, I think
Oh no, it's still
Strikers
M. Never mind.
Strikers was like 30% off this week, I think, on Switch.
Mm. Yeah, well, I guess it's because like not many people were looking at it because they thought it was just going to be kind of like another cheap spin-off. Like a lot of people got burned by uh what was it? Dancing All Night. Cuz cuz the problem is for whatever reason Atlas decided to say, "Yeah, all spin-off games are canon." And if that's true, those dancing games really ruin a lot of those story beats then. Uh, but Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just my recommendation personally to you if
Well, I
you
think I'd
want to
agree.
continue. But
If people want to get into Warriors games, and if you play Persona 5 and you've played Breath of the Wild, play Persona 5 Strikers. Even though I haven't touched it, I recommend playing it over Age of Calamity. So what have you been playing, Sam?
uh, unfortunately, not much because I've been handling stuff for the podcast, and work was kind of rough as well. Been mostly dipping into Monster Hunter Rise here and there. I finally reached high rank. Woo! Now the game finally starts, I guess. And I'm like carding actually more occasionally compared to the village quest. Um, so here's the thing. Like, I will say that the village quests, I feel like even for complete beginners, they're a lot more lenient compared to the high rank quests in this game, or even the some uh some of the starting hub quests even. Because like the biggest problem I have though is like once you finish up the village quest, it kind of just ends on sort of like a and that's it. And I'm like, oh, okay. I thought I would get to learn more about some of these characters that I thought I was supposed to know, but I guess that kind of took more of a backseat since obviously they focused a lot more on gameplay in this one compared to World, um, which is a weird thing to say because I know they changed a lot of things in World compared to the previous game before that. But I mean, well, since we scrapped that previous recording, unfortunately, it's not going to have as much high energy as I did when I first talked about it.
You
But
don't have to talk about the Wirebug for 20 minutes
yeah, but
if you don't want to.
I mean, the Wirebug's pretty good. I'm just gonna say it's a lot of fun. But yeah, Rise continues to be a really good game. I like the fact that they start with a lot of the new monsters first, and then as quests progress later on, you start encountering a lot of the veteran monsters. Like Rathalos is I think it was a rank 5 or 6 quest in the village at least, um, which is pretty crazy because I think you saw him or her. I think anyway. I think you encountered Rathalos much earlier in World, but in World progress felt a lot slower. Um, I guess. But yeah, haven't hit the point where the new stuff from the update, the new stuff that's been added from the first update, is given. So I can't really speak on anything like that. I did see a peek of one of the new armor sets. It basically just makes you look um, like a Final Fantasy type wizard, even, which is pretty funny. Um, I do like the fact that there are a lot more visually interesting costumes um, in Rise compared to World. Because in World, my friend was telling me that the armor set, but more importantly the weapon set, even the weapons, had less interesting visual styles, and even I kind of got to that point near the end of that game. But in Rise, it's like you get to see some pretty crazy weapons pretty quickly in that game. Like, and I'm not even talking about like some of the special weapons that you unlock from doing side quests. Like there's literally a weapon that's just a parasol that you can unlock from side quests. But um, but like for hammers, um, a lot of those weapons are essentially just put the monster's head on a stick, and that's the weapon. And it's just like it's goofy. It's a little macabre if you think about it too much, but it's fun. Like, I like seeing these more dynamic and visually interesting designs for the weapons because it makes it feel like, oh, I want to get this weapon because I like the way the colors look. One of my more favorite weapon designs is the Chargeblade series for I believe it's oh shoot, I forget the name of the tree, but it's the one that belongs to Gos Harag, which is a later new monster that you fight, and uh, it basically just looks like a bunch of rocks cobbled together into a shield that also has a sword, and then there's just some ice on the outside of it. So it almost looks like I'm just carrying around a block of ice crystals, essentially. Um, Other than that, um, I did play one game, which I guess I guess I may as well just say it pretty much flew under the radar for me.
Hold on a second. So
Oh,
are you
okay.
done with Are you done with Monster Hunter Rise?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to get my joke in. Well, you didn't talk about the wire bug for 20 minutes at least. I should have been more specific. No,
Yeah.
you did convince me. Last time you did convince me to re-download the demo. So I have not completely ruled out. I will try it again.
Yeah.
But the main thing with for somebody that hasn't played Monster Hunter, like when I download the demo, the graphic user interface was just like, here's 40 things that you can push, and that was just overwhelming. So I'm gonna have to sit down and play with it.
Yeah. I mean, if you want, like, if you want me to sit down with you on a weekend and just go through the demo with you, because you can't play multiplayer in that demo still, I'll do that for you and just help you run through some of those things. Like, if you need to understand the UI first before touching anything else, that's perfectly fine. It's up to you, but we can talk
There's a
about that
level
on the
of
side.
effort, right? Like if a game requires me to like have a tutor to start, then maybe I should play something else. But okay,
I
go
mean,
ahead. Tell us,
like, yeah.
tell us what else you played.
So I actually played this game that apparently was it came out in early access back in 2019 called Beacon, and it's um it was weird because I I basically just booted up my itch.io launcher and was like just by happenstance, like this literally happened yesterday, where I was just like, okay, I got some time to kill before I want to do like before I go out. Let's just check itch.io, but just by complete chance, and then I see Beacon just land right on the landing page for me. I'm like, oh, okay, what's this? And the best way I can describe it is it's like Hades, but in space. And instead of instead of Greek mythology, it's all about DNA mutation. Um, so it's yeah, it's a roguelike, a top-down roguelike. It has the same. It basically has the same exact point of view, like in Hades as well. But it's mostly guns. The main gimmick is that you start with DNA strands, and you have to like basically choose which ones you want to run for that run. And at the start, it's really simple stuff like um, gives me some luck but lowers my speed, gives me some more health but stamina goes down. Um, but before you even start your run, all those DNA strands get compiled and then they get analyzed. Uh oh.
David's DNA.
Okay,
Is
sorry
there
about that.
is there an evolution in this game where you no longer have to blow your nose if you choose a certain DNA strand?
Uh, I don't know about that. I didn't get that far, but maybe there is. To those of you who don't know, David David didn't drop out. He just dropped his feet so he could sneeze. which is fine.
Very polite.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that on camera.
I mean, I didn't really care. I probably would
Yeah,
just.
ever since COVID started and I had to teach online, there's a lot of things I didn't want to do on camera that I've had to do since then.
But
Yeah, but I don't teach, so
uh, what was I saying? Oh no.
Evolution, Hades in space,
Right.
DNA strands.
Yeah. So, um, those DNA strands get compiled, and there's a chance that some of them get extra mutations. So, for example, one of the big ones that I got was uh, I got plus 20 to all my stats, but my resistance got dropped by 80 points. So resistance was basically like my lowest stat for that entire run. Um, and and I basically just had to roll with that. It's pretty interesting because like the guns are fairly interesting too, but they're nothing outlandish. It's just more like uh, they're like Halo like guns or even Quake guns, if I want to be more accurate. Um, like for example, one of the more interesting guns that I got was like a flame shot that you had to hold down to charge, and then it spat out like a flame wave, or no, sorry, it basically fired a flame projectile right in front of me. It was somewhat slow, but it pretty much just like ate through enemies' HP like really easily. There was also a slime gun I got that was basically just the Halo Needler, or sorry, Halo's Needler. It even operated the same way too, which I thought was a bit on the nose, but uh, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Fairly competent. It's still in early access right now, but it is available on Steam as well. Uh, I'd give it a shot to check out. I can't really say it offers the same amount of features as like Hades. That's Hades is kind of its own beast really at this point. But yeah, surprisingly pleasant. And that's kind of what I'm about. Just digging into the garbage and just trying to find like diamonds in the rough, really. So yeah, that's
I'll
basically
stick with
it.
I'll stick with Mario and Zelda and let you do the digging.
Fair enough.
Speaking of digging through stuff, you want to talk about storefronts?
Oh yeah, because you had some things to say about
So yeah, so some things that were in the news this week were well, PlayStation deleted the PS3 and the Vita store, and then people got mad and they put them back. This is good news for me. I don't own a PS3, but there's three Tales of games I need to play left, and they're on PS3. So if I can get those digitally, that would be convenient. And then Xbox cut their developer cut. Is that right? To match Epic Games, what they take. Is that correct?
yeah, from 30% to 12%.
Probably the most interesting thing I saw about this was that I saw some threads from that Maurice had posted from developers saying I'd still rather take 30% on Steam because the user base is so much bigger that I don't really care.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like, well, it's maybe a step in the right direction, but it's not that helpful. I don't know. One thing that occurred to me, we also had been talking about Epic Games Store losing money on all these free games and these licenses. And I had made the defense at the time that it maybe losing all the money is a part of just getting your market share in, because that's what Xbox did, was that they lost a ton of money on their consoles when they first started.
mm-hmm.
But I think it's apples and oranges looking back from this conversation, just thinking about this today, because when you buy an Xbox and they're losing money on the console, but like you're committed to like using that Xbox. I mean, you're gonna look at, you buy one game, you're gonna look at like, I should buy more games for this machine. I bought this machine for a reason. You go download some free games on the Epic Game Store or one game, like you probably just turn it off and never look at it again, because it's not really a dedicated machine. I mean, yeah, it's a dedicated store that you can easily just close and go back to Steam. I don't know if throwing money at it is as good of a long-term strategy for software, or I guess it's not software, but what would you call that? Middleware?
I
I don't
mean,
know.
you say throwing money at it, but it's not even like throwing money at the problem. It's throwing money. It's just throwing money away,
Just
really.
throwing money.
That's literally their solution. Apparently, is to just literally give give away free money, essentially. Because you have to understand, it's like, um, I will say, in regards of who's handling it better, I would say Microsoft is handling it better because, at the very least, the point of Game Pass for PC is to build up a customer base, which has been easily successful because it's not only getting PC owners, it's getting console owners. Because if you get the Xbox Ultimate Pass, I think, um, you also get the Game Pass for PC as well. So like, for Xbox users, or I guess like, uh, I guess I'll say higher tier spending customers, um, you're getting, you're tapping into an extra customer base that not many uh, that not many companies can really afford to do. So, but it's just like, it's an easy way to compensate for the fact that, as far as I know, still, that the Windows Store is just terrible. Like like I bought a game on the Windows Store, and now that same store has told me that I do not own that game that I bought for $30, and I
Windows has a
can't
store.
do anything about that. Yeah, well, that's the other thing too, right? The Xbox app, which is the app you have to download to use Game Pass for PC, is not the store app. You have to also have the store app for Windows specifically, for PC anyway.
Yeah, so I tried this on PC, but my PC was too old. But even like I have my nephew's old Series S, and I'm a family member on his Game Pass account, and even just doing that has been a total headache. Like
Yeah,
there are times
it's
where I'm like,
terrible.
I don't want this free game or streamed game or whatever. I don't know what you call it, but like I don't want to download this game because I don't want to mess with this. So I'll just
Yeah,
go back to my other device.
yeah, but at the very least, it's like, at least Microsoft is getting some money out of it, because you do have to pay a subscription for it. There are some people who are getting it relatively cheap still, but even then, it's still like, it's a Netflix subscription that you're paying for to get it. So
Yeah, I think
that's still like, in a way, retention. Epic
I
Game
think you're
Store is like, they're just giving it away. Like,
you're
there's nothing
exact
about it.
you're exactly right because whether it's Game Pass or even if you go back to like Xbox first coming out, like you're trying to not everybody that you try to hook with this is going to convert to a customer, but there's a rate of conversion among the people that take you up on your offer, right?
Yes.
But the free games on Epic Game Store is not. It's got to have a very minuscule rate of conversion. A lot of these people are just going to download the games and then never do anything else on EGS.
No.
Even among our chat, I know lots of people that have just they check once a month, they download the game, and then they never do anything else on EGS.
I mean, I'm a perfect case example. Haze was first available on the Epic's Game Store. I bought it on the Switch. That was like a year later, or was it a year later? I think it was
It,
more
it
than a year
was
later.
it
Um,
was considerably later, yeah.
yeah, like, and it's because like, and it's because at the time, I didn't want to have to play a game that I thought was going to be really great on on a store that I thought was complete garbage, honestly. Like, that's how bad it was. It's like, I would much rather have bought it on my Switch, which which I want to bring up, does the exact same thing. It also doesn't have a shopping cart. You have to buy games one at a time, uh, on the Nintendo eShop.
I've got
But
a
the fact that I would rather have it on my Switch instead, um, rather than the Epic Game Store, but by whatever reasoning I gave myself for it, is is insane. Like there's nothing about the Epic Game Store that I can confidently say to anyone else, this is why you should use the store app.
So I'm about to go off about the Switch eShop here in a second, but before I do that, I looked at Hades. It was almost 2 years later. But so are we pretty much in agreement that Steam has the best storefront?
It has the
And
best storefront because, well, it's not just because it's technically the oldest. It's because they actually did everything for it. Like they still do stuff for it here and there, but but like keep in mind we're talking about the legacy digital storefront for PC games of up to um more than a decade at this point. Close to 20 years even.
yeah, it's almost 20 years.
Like, and every other digital storefront that has tried to even match up to it has failed completely. Like nothing even comes close. Not even GOG 2.0's storefront, which while I will say it is really good as just a convenient wrapper for all the digital store apps that you have to download because customer retention is a problem apparently, and none of these companies can stand um, just allowing a storefront to be used. Um, like it still fails in comparison to just the amount of features that the Steam storefront has. Like it's practically unbeatable. And the fact of the matter is that they still continue to improve it to this day. Um, like like literally a year ago, um, my friend was talking to me and said, "Hey, hop on the Steam chat for a bit." And I was like, "Man, we haven't used Steam chat in like years since Discord came around." Steam chat Steam chat has literally become like Discord. You can do the exact same things on it. It's crazy. Like you can do video calls, group calls. You can set up your own rooms, text chats, and everything. But it's all personalized. So it's like you don't even have to set up your own channel to do it. You can just do it from Steam Chat, and it retains all that for you. Um, and like not even to mention the Steam Labs uh, beta section, which is just like here, um, let us give you the power to literally curate your own list of video games for you to look at to see if you want to get it. Which is not only like even more empowering to the individual user, uh, but gives even more potential customers to smaller known games, and allows for bigger exposure for a lot of these games that have to compete with such a large market already.
I think what you just said about discovery, that's my main complaint about PS5 and Switch. So, well, I have another one about Switch, but like if I go to the store, if I know what I'm looking for because I looked it up and I want to buy this game, it's fine. But if I want to just like explore a genre or find kind of quirky things, it is near impossible. And now I'm going to really complain about Nintendo because this is ridiculous. Here's my Switch.
I know what you're talking about too, because
Okay, here is a filtered search for the Switch. If you can see that, if you were watching this, if you were listening to this, here's the options. I can filter by keyword, and then I can choose within software and DLC. I can choose price range. I can choose genre. I can check if it's on sale or if it's playable now or if it has a demo or if it supports online play. Okay, Nintendo is the people that everybody considers like the family company. Like you let your little kids play Mario and Zelda, which is pretty much what I do, and Kirby. Like I don't let my kid really play the PS5. How come I can filter by rating by ESRB on the PS5 and not on my Switch? I'm never going to let my daughter look through games on the Switch with me because I want her to see all these M-rated visual novels. That is, if you just look through the list of games on the Switch, most of it is trash, and I should be able to at least filter like teen or lower. Like this is ridiculous.
yeah, and it's like yeah, I'm pretty sure you can do that on Steam as well. But that's the
Oh, I'm
thing
sure
is
you can.
like, but that's the thing is like, um, what are what are considered what seem to be considered like not really necessary or not even priority features to have on a storefront is like by any other spin of the situation would be considered unusable. Like it's a perfect case for you because you're a father. In my case, it's like, well, I don't want to be completely bombarded um with like the AAA releases because there's practically no AAA release games that I'm interested in. For all they can all go into the trash can for all I care. For me personally, if you like any of those games, it's fine. This is just my opinion, but this is just me making a point. Like
Except for Monster Hunter,
it doesn't
right?
even have to. Yeah, that's true.
What
But
did you say, David?
Except for Monster Hunter.
yeah,
Oh, sure.
the point being is that you don't have to be as good as Steam, but at the very least, there are certain things that you should have if you want to be considered at least a decent storefront. Um, and these are all things that you know, like even Amazon knows it, Google knows it, Apple knows it to a degree. And I know like comparing it to app stores on Google and Apple isn't really a fair comparison because you do also kind of have to order like app by app, but it's the same problem. Like at the very least, you can still filter through results through all those stores. So yeah, it's like and like I said before, Nintendo suffers the same problem as the Epic Game Store for not having a shopping cart. I know there are going to be some people who are going to try to counter me on that point, but the fact of the matter is like you should have that because otherwise you get certain situations like for example when the Epic Game Store first came out where tons of people's accounts were getting flagged for fraud because they had to buy games individually, um, and then getting flagged for card fraud essentially because it's like, well, there's no way someone would buy like three full price games all together, and it's like maybe they will though. Like the point of the point is like you don't know, and the shopping cart is there to serve as like as kind of like an overview of what you want to get, regardless of what that material may be. So
Here's a point about the Switch compared to even just PS5. So
mhm.
with the shopping carts, I think maybe I don't realize what I don't have because I primarily play on consoles. But like on Switch, you get there's like this news feed, right? And you can curate based on games you've played and like all the time, at least on mine. And I these are just the main thing, but it'll point out like, hey, you should check out these games in this genre. You should check out these games in this genre. And like that's okay for discovery, but like, why is that not in the eShop? Why do I have to go through a different part of my Switch to get an interesting list of games that I then have to go to the eShop for?
Yeah,
If you go to the PS5 and you go to the store, right on the front, it's like, hey, check out these games on sale. Check out the games in this genre. Check out that. That should be in the shop. Like you're using a whole different avenue to make a point about the shop that it should just be in the shop. That doesn't make any sense.
yeah, that's true. I would argue um, it's entirely possible that it's just a workaround because um, like the problem is I don't really know how the console itself works like internally, but I can definitely see how it's like, well, the newsfeed is kind of like your notifications on your smartphone, right? And notifications are like news alerts for certain things on your app. So the thought process is, well, if we give them a news feed, they can just use that as like a jumping page to the store to lead them to whatever game it is.
I mean, you
I'm
could
not saying it's the right solution. I'm just saying
sure,
it's a way to get around that.
but they could have done both, right?
They
I
could have,
have a
yeah,
feeling
for
that when
sure.
I have a feeling that after the Switch launched and they had made their eShop, they were kind of like, crap, we should have done a lot more with the eShop, and then they couldn't go back and fix it, as far
Yeah,
as I can tell. Although you think you could just do a system update? I don't know. Maybe
that's
that's too
hard to
much work.
say. That's the problem, because the biggest problem is like you comparing it to all the other consoles. None of their digital stores have really gone through a major like upgrade, except maybe the PS3's digital storefront, if I remember correctly. Because the problem is um, like the original launch PS3's digital store. I remember being way different from where it ended up being by the time the PS4 was about to be out. Um, but other than that, I can't really say.
David, do you have a favorite storefront?
Not really, because they all irritate me because they all mess it up. They go from really good and then an update messes it all up.
Yeah, that's fair. Another ridiculous thing about consoles is I have like a wish list on eShop and on PS5, and unlike Steam, neither of them seem to want to notify me when things on my wish list are on sale. Is there a way to do that and I just don't realize it? I get stuff all the time. I forgot I even have a wish list on Steam, and then it's like, hey, these games are on sale, even though I currently don't even own a PC. But I cannot get PS5 or the Switch to just tell me when the games I want are on sale.
I usually get an email from Nintendo when something on my wish list is on sale.
Okay, well that sounds like user error. I need to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm pretty sure it's something where it's like it'll ask you if you wanted to send email notifications to the store itself.
I bet I have to go to Nintendo.com or something and log in some parental control workaround to figure out how to do this.
It's okay, Dad. We're here for you.
Man, I was fixing stuff on my parents' computer last night, but I'm feeling the transition towards like things that I don't know, especially because I teach college kids, right? And I get older, but they don't. I'm starting to feel it.
I mean, you could ask them to help you, and then won't. You'll feel it less. You're not going to be able to get rid of it. That's the problem. But
well, apparently, things on my wish list are on sale on eShop. Great. This is bad. I shouldn't look at this.
Yeah. Oh goodness, especially for May. Like the big thing for me is that Nocturne remaster. But other than that,
I am really, really excited for the World Ends with You game, so Neo, that's coming out in July. And so
Yeah,
I wanted
that's
to
right.
I wanted to get the one for Switch, but the remaster of the first one is $50, but it was $25. It was half off at some point, so I'm waiting for it to happen again. And I almost went and found a copy on some questionable internet site, a physical copy of it, but I backed out of that because I forgot that they're putting out an anime of the first game. So like, just watch this instead. So we'll see. But
Oh, isn't
if
that going to take a while to come out though?
there's already like 4 episodes out.
Oh, is there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's only dub. Is that the right one? No, sub. It's only sub, but it's on Hulu.
Hmm.
Well, I think it's on Funimation, but it's also on Hulu. I haven't started it yet, but I think I'm just going to do that instead of play the game again, which feels bad. But that game was so unique to the DS that I can't imagine it'll be nearly as good on Switch or a phone.
That's what I've been hearing.
Did you ever play it on DS?
Me? I did, and I got really intimidated. And to be fair, I was pretty young when I first heard about that game, and then I tried it, and I was just like, "This is too weird. This is too scary. I can't."
See, I loved it.
Yeah, but no, yeah. Like the other thing is like after seeing some of the complaints about the transition from the DS version to the Switch version, and even to the smartphone edition, which I think the Switch version is based on. It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I didn't really latch onto it, but I can totally understand why people who played the original would not be for it, because it's such a unique thing to the DS specifically. It's like, how do you recreate that experience?
Exactly. Which is like, you don't want to punish people for like embracing the hardware, right? Nintendo's had weird hardware for a while now.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, it's probably more of a case that Nintendo shouldn't have tried, maybe, but I don't know. Who's to say? Like, remember that the screen on your Nintendo Switch is a touch screen.
Well, I've remembered that just because my daughter playing Mario Galaxy, the way you get the stars because you can't point like you could on the Wii.
Yeah.
You have to like if you're in handheld mode, you have to tap the screen
Mm-hmm.
to grab the stars.
Which I'm sure is just great for the screen itself.
Yeah,
Getting all
especially for
those
7-year-old people of junk on her fingers, just whacking away at the screen.
fingerprint smudges all over the place.
All right, I'm done ranting about storefronts.
In that case, let's rant more about something else. So Derek, once again, came to us with another uh, philosophical question that we must ponder. Derek, please proceed.
Well, so I was playing Sunshine last night, I guess, and I was like,
Oh, wait, real quick. Disclaimer: if you like Sunshine, this is just Derek's opinion. Do not get mad. Or, well, if you do, comment down below. And remember to smash that like button and that subscribe button and hit that bell. We would appreciate the views, please. I want this podcast to succeed. Anyway, Derek, go ahead.
well, I'm not opposed to. The jury's still out on whether Sunshine is good or not. Now that I can invert the controls.
Yeah.
But when I was starting the story again, and like Peach has this like terrible voice, but she's like talking. She's like, "What happened?" And it's just like this like really fake. I mean, it sounds like a machine or something. Like made a girl like they told a machine learning algorithm like sound like a girl, and then like that's what came out. But I was like, wait, they had voice acting on the GameCube, and then I'm looking at the like I know it's been remastered some, but I'm like, what year did this come? And I realized it came out in 2002, which is almost 20 years ago,
Mhm.
and I was like, what should my expectations be for a game that's 20 years old? Like, should I be more forgiving? Should I be like, well, it doesn't hold up if it's not that good? Like,
Can you put
what
your
does it?
mindset back to that time?
Yeah, do I need to twist my mind back, or what's it take for me to look at a 20-year-old game and say, okay, this is good? And I did have a couple of thoughts. This seems like silly, but this is more not. This is not like a sufficient thing. It's just a necessary thing. Like
Mhm.
you have to at least pass this bar, and I think you have to have a reasonable system for saving. Like I'm not gonna go back and play like well, I did. I guess I played the Dragon Quest trilogy, like 1, 2, and 3, on Switch, and you can only save in the main castle. Like the rest of the road, you die, you just start over.
Oh,
Well, actually, that's not.
not even in the church. It had to be the castle.
So Dragon Quest 1 doesn't have churches. Like I think 2 and 3 had churches, or at
Oh
least 3
wow,
did.
I
Dragon
never
Quest
knew that.
1. Now you did. I guess maybe this is. I don't know if this is new compared to the old ones because this was like a Super Nintendo level remaster. If you
Mhm.
died, you went back to the castle and you didn't completely lose all your levels, but you lost a bunch of money.
Mhm.
And so sometimes it was better just to restart. But yeah, you could only save in one place on the entire map. So somehow I put up with that. But like it was not like, oh, this is the best game ever. Like when I played with Trails in the Sky, which actually came out in 2004, it's pretty old. Um, you can save anywhere, which is like, hey, if you can give me an old school style game, I don't care about graphics. I care about story and I care about like quality of life stuff. Like you've got like don't make the game a headache to play. And now, I mean, you can't change. Like, if I'm going to go back and play a game on a GameCube or on an N64, I can't like change how the game was then. But like, if you're going to put out a remaster or a port, like the 3D All Stars is it's clearly an emulator, but there's no like save states. Whereas like the Super Nintendo, what was it called? The like thing that was just a console with a bunch of games on
Oh,
it.
then the SNES Classic.
Yeah, like it had save states and rewind and everything that you would want for like an emulator type, but there's none of that on 3D All Stars. Like, just make it easy for me to play the game. I guess is like the necessary first thing. Past that, I don't know. I haven't decided.
Yeah. I mean, like, I can definitely say like I completely understand a lot of the gripes. Technically with Sunshine. I won't make any excuses that that game does not. Uh, uh, gameplay wise, it did not age very well. I think more than anything, it's just like there's something about the aesthetic of being of playing basically a tropical Mario game that sticks more in people's minds,
That's
more
the
than
best part of
anything.
it for sure.
Yeah, and I guess in a way it's like that's somewhat always been a thing for Mario, really. Like if you think about it, like there's Yoshi's Island, there was Super Mario World, which had a lot of islands. Like water being around you was a constant thing in Mario. Not like on a level to level basis, but water was always involved in some way. And I guess like that could be sort of a thing that some people just latch onto in a very weird, obscure way, and then Sunshine just embraces that to the nth degree, and it's just like, oh, like this feels nice. It's like in a lot of ways, it probably does kind of feel like playing Yoshi's Island, in another sense, but it's just more like playing at a villa than like dense forests and stuff like that, where you
There
have
is
to
a
fight a
weird
giant dinosaur at the end of the game. But
there is a weird parallel between the way you aim to throw Yoshi's eggs and the way you use the flood device. Now that you say that,
mhm.
so it almost feels like they're trying to do Yoshi's Island in 3D, and that's kind of weird. And I do think the aesthetic is very good. It's fun and vibrant, and I prefer that in games. I'm just still getting used to the controls, which I think I will never get used to.
You hear that, Miyamoto? Mario games with a bit of flavor are actually fun enough for people to get it. Expand it a little,
What
not just in a single costume.
What are you griping about, Odyssey, or what?
I don't know. Am I
I feel like the
am I
past.
I don't know. Well,
I feel like everything.
okay. To be perfectly fair, there I haven't played a lot of the Mario platformer games. I really want to play Galaxy 1 and 2, but I don't want to pay for 3D All-Stars. That's the thing, right? But the other thing is that I really enjoyed the Mario RPG games. So I really liked 7 Stars. I know that game doesn't look great just by itself, but I just really like how that game is.
You
I
talking about the
really
Super Nintendo
liked,
game?
yeah. Um,
Everybody but me likes that game.
and I really liked, well, it's not perfect. I'll definitely agree with that, but um, and I really liked Thousand Year Door. I'm fine with Super Paper Mario, um, but it's specifically with like 7 Stars and Thousand Year Door, where it's like uh, it seems to be very difficult to get like brand new characters, or even necessarily like complete new worlds even. um like Thousand Year Door is kind of like it's almost like the developers took an acid trip somehow and then started making an actualized Mario world where it wasn't just like everything's happy and fun and it's just all about saving the princess. It's like, yeah, it's still about saving the princess, but then on the side, it's like you go to a dingy port town where there are criminals everywhere. Um, people are talking about their individual problems. Some people are extremely cynical. There's like a talking mouse who's going, who's like telling you like, "Hey Mario, I'm off to find oil and strike it rich. You want to give me 99 coins as an investment?" And it's like, uh, sure. There's also a casino where it has a secret business and it's secretly run by the Pianta Mafia. Uh, there's a toad who's a struggling writer, and and he feels creatively blocked and can't come up with anything, and doesn't really earn enough money. Meanwhile, his wife goes off and gambles it away at the casino.
Now, here's a point about Thousand Year Door that you're making that I think you can generalize. Sam was just like losing it about the casino. um, you go to an older game, like yeah, the gameplay's not going to be as good, the graphics won't be as good. I shouldn't say gameplay won't be as good. It might not be as complicated. Doesn't mean it's bad, but the story, like probably PlayStation onward, you were not really restricted by like character counts. Like you could write a good story for a GameCube or PlayStation. Like those stories hold up. I mean, yeah, maybe your story is primarily delivered over text instead of voice acting or cutscenes, but like you didn't have to wait till now to write well in a video game.
Yeah.
So particularly if I'm looking for like an old RPG, like I want the writing to be good. If it's just a by the numbers plot, then I'm not interested. Even Chrono Trigger, like I think Chrono Trigger is somewhat overrated, but like they really took a lot of risks. A lot of things that happened in Chrono Trigger were never done in a video game before then.
Like
Plot
creative,
wise,
yeah, like creatively speaking, for sure. It is kind of a mess with all that time travel going on.
I
But
mean, I hate time travel, like in anything, any kind of story. But
mhm,
I will. But that, to my knowledge, that was the first video game that really did it seriously.
yeah. Um, so I guess for me, like, hmm, I'm not sure because I could really go on about two certain games that I know they're really popular, and I just kind of have like a in the middle opinion about it. Uh, David, do you have anything?
What's the question specifically?
So, what's it take for you to, if you're going to go look for a game and like you've heard it's good, but it's like 20, 25 years old, like what does it take for you to look at a game that old and say, okay, this is pretty good?
Preferably the gameplay, but I can get past less than stellar gameplay if it has a good story. And I'm realizing that a lot of really great games came out in 2001, so it's I think we should have a higher bar of uh, higher standard for 20-year-old games than we do for 30.
What all happened in 2001? The GameCube came out that year, right? Or was that 2003?
No, Super Smash Bros. Melee was out in 2001.
Dang. That game still holds up.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently, the first Halo, which I forgot about, um, a bunch of games actually.
High
Silent
school
Hill
was a
2.
good Yeah, I was a freshman or sophomore in high school. That was a good time.
Oh wow,
Now I'm just nostalgic.
Diablo 2 was released in 2000. Diablo
And
2,
then
Deus Ex, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, Perfect Dark.
and even I think Wind Waker came out the next year.
Something like
But
that. And
like, go ahead.
so did Metroid Prime came out in 2002. I think I saw.
Hmm.
I feel like the jump you go from, I feel like 8-bit to 16-bit was impressive, but not quite as big as a jump. Like going from cartridge to disc in the PS1 era was huge, but it also seemed like there was a huge creative jump from PS1 and N64 to GameCube and PS2, and I don't really feel like we've had a jump like that since. Like you jumped into high definition graphics with PlayStation 3 and not the Wii but the Wii U, I guess. But it seems to me that there really was kind of a creative spark in the GameCube, PlayStation 2 era that I haven't seen that kind of creative jump. I mean, I guess when you get into like The Last of Us and towards the end of the PS3 era, like what you can do with storytelling kind of jumps. But
Well, the thing is like, um, I, I guess like there are some people who would probably say The Last of Us is sort of like the next jump in storytelling
sure.
in video games. But the thing is like, um, technically, uh, Naughty Dog was already doing that with the Uncharted series. It's just that like that shift in really trying to figure out that format happened so gradually because Uncharted didn't come out every year. Uh, every year, it was always like there was always like a good spacing in between all of those games. And for a lot of people, they would say it was really like Uncharted 3 and 4 where you started seeing like this huge shift in how they did storytelling, and also how they constructed like cinematic storytelling even as well. Um, but I guess it's like if you want to talk about like storytelling in the way that only video games can do it, it's really difficult because it's like, where would you say that change happens? Because arguably it could be said the first Half-Life does that, makes that first big jump, um, where it's like story is given to you contextually as long as you're observing in the game itself. Um, but I think it's also just like there's clearly just a split of thought, a split of schools of thought where it's like how storytelling can be done in video games, and it's like games that do it contextually, without relying on without necessarily relying on cutscenes, and then games that follow a more narrative structure, which is to use cutscenes in between gameplay to kind of like move things along.
Kind of in the middle of that though. So like when you're talking contextual plot, there's a lot. Some games where it's like you just like read the like signs or whatever, and you kind of try to deduce what's going on.
Yeah.
But there's also like maybe not plot so much as characterization. There's so like I actually played about half, maybe a third of The Last of Us, but I got motion sick. But the so I broke my rule for that one, but I still had to finish it. But like just when you're going around and you're looking in rooms and stuff, like those more modern games where like the characters talk to each other like offhandedly.
Yeah.
Like you think about like in a movie, those scenes are not going to be there, maybe one or two, but in a book, even those moments aren't always there because like usually in a book, there's still like you have those kind of moments, but they always just like in a movie, they're supposed to kind of like point towards the overarching plot. But you really get some good character interaction and some just like deepening the relationship between the characters when you get some of those scenes, especially in that game in The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more you're able to like characterize the kind of goofing around and exploring that players do, I think the more you get a payoff from the plot.
Well, in that case, then it's kind of like, um, well, you can even go further back if you're talking about characterization, because I mean, like, what's really the first iteration of that then? Where it's like characters talking to each other specifically. You could go back as far as like, I don't know, maybe even Ocarina of Time, for Zelda, where it's Link, not talking but interacting with oh shoot, what's the fairy's name again?
Navi.
Navi. Like in a way that could also be an interaction. But it's not interaction with Link, it's an interaction with you, the player, because Navi is essentially the game telling you where to go and everything, and maybe that might be stretching the question a bit too far, but that's the thing is like, how far can you take that, and it's like, because like you can even talk about games like Mass Effect where the player is given more agency, depending on how they play their character, with like, how like certain events end up resolving in that game. But oh shoot, I had a game in mind that I was gonna talk about.
while you're thinking, if you think about that idea of characters talking to each other,
Mm-hmm.
I think the first ones going back before, well, I guess about the same as Ocarina of Time, but I think the Tales games have always had the skits where you like while you're walking down the road, you push a button and it brings up like a little anime skit of the
Yeah.
characters. But I think you go back even farther. This isn't characters talking to each other, but it is contextual story. In Final Fantasy VI, if you had Shadow in your party and you would sleep at inns at the right time, or maybe you just had to do it over and over, he would have nightmares about his past, and there was a whole subplot about his kind of him opening up and what he'd done in the past, and you could easily miss it. But like his whole sequence, I think there were four dreams that he has that you get to watch, but you had to like have him his part in the party when you like went to an inn,
Mm-hmm.
and like the first time you do that, you're like, "Whoa, what the heck is happening?"
Um, here's another interesting example, and it still works because it's older than 20 years ago. Um, I feel I'd feel remiss if I if I didn't talk about if I didn't talk about the game that uh, Tim Rogers, master of not getting to the point, uh, made a 7 hour video talking about Tokimeki Memorial, um, like the first what a Japanese dating sim game that's all about dating high school girls in Japan. And it's
Awkward.
like, as silly as that is, it's like you have to think about you have to like really think about uh like what amount of content there is to accomplish that type of thing, because it's like, well, you can talk to the main heroine of that game, but um something that they don't tell you about that game is that uh the heroine's the main heroine's stat uh quote unquote stats are really high. So your player character also has to match her standards. Um, and they're numerical, but in a way that's somewhat similar to life as well. Uh, and it's all about like, like, okay, what do I need to do to reach the main heroine's standards? I gotta study more. I gotta work out. I gotta prove I'm a nice guy. I gotta like I gotta say the right things, invite her to stuff to show her interest. And like these are all things you can do, but they all take time in that game. So you can't just grind out a certain stat. You have a specific amount of time that you have to complete. And like granted, I think a full playthrough is over the course of 3 years, I think, um, because it's high school. And but it's like, but each day is simply boiled down to a handful of decisions that you can only make with a certain amount of time. And you're also a student, so half that time half that time is already taken away from you. So you have to capitalize on that time spent at school, which is probably going to be the best amount of time you can spend with that character. And this is just talking about the main heroine, who I believe statistically is the hardest girl to date in that game. Apparently, there are like 10 other girls in that game that you can also romance as well, and they all have they all require just as complex requirements. Maybe not as steep, but they're just as complex to consider when you want to figure out like, okay, who do I friend? Uh, who should I know about? What relationships do I have to consider if I decide to pursue this girl over this girl? Um,
Is there a horse girl that you can date?
no, I think that's a different uh, dating sim franchise actually. But uh, fun. It's funny you mentioned that. Like, um, Uma Musume Pretty Derby has that segment to it as well. Uh, but that's besides the point. We can talk about that later because that's a more recent game. The point is like Tokimeki Memorial is already like a game that requires not just a lot of coding just to allow all those events to happen, but a lot of text to be written and to like make any of those events and interactions with all these characters feel somewhat real. Aside from the fact that you're basically just reading a book of you dating a fictional character. And again, like it's silly to talk about, but that's like how in depth narrative is when it comes to video games. Like you do have to consider those types of things. Probably why we don't really see more complex dating sim games now, because that's how much work is required. If you wanted to like have something like that in a AAA game, like woof, that's mountains of text that you'd have to write. Who knows if they can even invest that much time anyway.
What year did that game come out?
Tokimeki Memorial. The game that Tim Rogers focused on was the PSX version. It was Japanese only is the problem. But the very first game came out on the PC Engine. That was 1994.
Dang.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember there's an episode. Okay, have you watched High Score Girl?
Sorry, which one?
High Score Girl.
Yeah.
It's an anime about this kid playing Street Fighter against this other girl.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, one of the episodes, it probably is on PC Engine. He's playing a dating sim, and his his mom and his sister and his girlfriend are trying to tell him what to do.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah. Apparently, that game was really popular among girls as well, which was interesting. Like it wasn't just men. So anyway, that's besides the point. The point being that like complex narrative was just as relevant, I think, 20 years ago for video games.
Sure.
Than you might think. Although then again, Tokimeki Memorial is a very specific case, but I think it just proves the point that it's like that it's like there are like there's more to narrative than just like than necessarily what's the best way to describe it?
Well, it's not just about like the storyboards, right? To keep plot. It's about the individual actions, the script.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to storyboarding for a minute, like the overall scene, not to spoil because I don't know if you guys have finished Final Fantasy VI, but the back half of that game has been plagiarized so many times. Like that was another game that, like Chrono Trigger, if I go back to why those are classics, both of them I feel like set new standards for like what you could do in a game.
Can you dance around like what specific point you mean?
When you play as Celis instead of Terra.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like that entire back half of it has been stolen by by books, by other video games. Just that concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say this though. For modern video games, I understand when mechanically you want to make it a point of it being the lowest point for your character, but can we please get rid of the mandatory sad walk segments?
What do you mean sad walk?
I mean the points where it's like you're only allowed to walk.
I got you.
Yeah. I'm not a fan. I get the idea, but
are either of you ever gonna play what's the game? I just played this not long ago. Iconoclast. Are either of you gonna play that game? You think? I kind of want to spoil it pretty bad. So
I don't.
Um, I think I did have it spoiled for me anyway. So I think you're
I'll,
fine.
I'll just say they spin the sad walk in a very like heart tugging way
Okay.
because you don't know you're on a sad walk.
Right.
Let me put it that way, and then
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah. Or like don't make the sad walk obvious. You know, like put like if you're gonna do it, make it mean something. Don't just make me go like, okay, how long do I have to sit here before I can keep playing? You know. But yeah. Um, kind of went off on a tangent in that regard. But yeah. I guess like I mean I suppose I expanded somewhat on my point, but I guess for me, like when I play particularly older games, for example, after Final Fantasy VII Remake got announced, I originally was kind of excited about it, before understanding that it wasn't actually going to be like a one-to-one remake, therefore requiring me having to play the original anyway. I still need to get back on that. I kind of dropped it pretty badly. But when I started playing Final Fantasy VII, and like, you know, you see that title screen, you see that stinger intro, and then when you press new game and you go through the sequence, it like I I definitely get why people would have been excited for this game. Because well, first of all, number one, it probably doesn't. It probably didn't look like most other JRPGs at the time, uh, which will make it stand out more, obviously. But it's like the intro is very exciting, like you hit new game, and then like all of a sudden you just see a train. You see this like retro steam techno punk city that's just like, okay, what even happened here? Um, and then you see like guards with guns getting taken out. You start like forming your own ideas about like what the city what the city of Midgar itself is exactly, like how exactly it operates. Depending on what you probably read at the time. Uh, like it's a very compelling action sequence, I would say, where like you're just thrown into the midst of the action, and then you kind of just like have to um pick up on like, well, what the heck is active time battle? How do you do that? And then realizing, oh, okay, so I attack. Looks like I might have some spells, but not yet. Okay, I'll worry about that later. Um, and then like you fight your way down the elevator all the way to the core. You start getting some beats here and there, but still not getting the full story of all your characters. And then you fight that big scorpion robot. I'm just gonna call it because I forget the name of it exactly. But understanding that like, hey, some bosses have weak points. Also, pay attention to your characters when they say stuff. It's probably important. Um, like Barrett saying, "Watch out for that! Watch out for that laser! Don't get hit by it." And then you took too long, so you get hit by the laser anyway. But it's like it's very interesting how it's like it's essentially like the first time you're really experiencing um, a 3D game, but it it almost operates the same way as any Final Fantasy game that came before it. Like I would say, I would say it's fairly similar to how Final Fantasy VI even starts. Honestly, although Final Fantasy VI kind of like eases you into it rather than just blowing straight into an action sequence. Um, but
Final Fantasy. Go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Final Fantasy VII has some warts, but like that was the first game I played of that generation. Like I bought a PlayStation for that game when it came out,
Mm-hmm.
put it in, and I think what you're talking about at the beginning, I will never like I was like 13. I will never forget watching that. Like that was mind blowing at the time.
Yeah, I would say it's like, I mean, whether you love it or hate it, Final Fantasy VII definitely set a standard of what to expect from. I'm I'm somewhat remiss to even say RPGs in general, but I don't know if saying JRPGs in general is the right thing to say as well. Um, but but yeah, it definitely set a standard of like what to expect from PlayStation, at least anyway. Um, I will say I will say it was very interesting to just play that opening segment, and then like the first time you get some breathing room to just explore that little town um, at the very beginning and just like see what's going on, how people are and stuff, and and really just like and really just kind of like just going, oh yeah, I'm still playing a Final Fantasy game. It's just the setting is so wildly different than what I'd be used to, you know. So it's kind of interesting because like if I had played this when it came out, I probably would have just been like, man, this is totally different from every Final Fantasy ever, completely different. And looking at it now, it's just like, no, it's still the same. It's still just as much Final Fantasy as any other that came before it.
You make a good point about the opening of Final Fantasy VI, but at the time I did feel like, and it wasn't a bad feeling at the time, but I was like, this is you got chocobos and potions, but it really did feel like an entirely different franchise.
Mm-hmm. Uh, and then like so I didn't play Final Fantasy VII as a kid. I also didn't play Ocarina of Time as a kid. Um,
You missed out.
I guess so. I'm not really eaten up by it though, because like,
Those are
uh, oh, sorry, go ahead.
just two of my all-time favorites.
Mm. Because,
So go ahead.
uh, well, you say what you want first, because I'm still trying to figure out what I want to say.
Well, I'll just share my embarrassing story I've shared many times in the chat, which is when I turned, I guess, 10. My parents were, my birthday is right before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually get something big as like one gift. And my parents were like, well, do you want to get a Virtual Boy or do you want to wait for the N64 to come out? Because I think your friends want the N64. And I was like, no, Virtual Boy now. And it was a very bad idea. So I never had an N64. Yeah. So I never got an N64 because later I got a PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got a GameCube later, I got Wind Waker, and it came with this bonus disc if you pre-ordered that had Ocarina of Time on it. And it also had like the hard version, like Master Quest or whatever.
Right.
So I went back and I played Ocarina of Time on the GameCube after Wind Waker. And I mean, years later, I was still blown away. Like, I don't know if it holds up now because I haven't played Ocarina of Time since then, but definitely it held up at least a generation later. I liked Wind Waker more, but I was still like, okay, this is a really good Zelda game.
Mm-hmm.
Look at David's face. Oh my gosh, he's very upset that I liked Wind Waker more.
I mean, I don't think you. Well, anyway, uh, so so when I started playing Ocarina of Time, it's just kind of like, um, it did kind of like it did kind of like take me aback, where like I just started playing and I was kind of hit with sort of like, oh wow, like I kind of feel like a kid again, uh, starting this game up, um, where it's like I can just imagine, you know, it's it's like Saturday morning. You just got the game. You just got the game. Like you're probably like maybe you're familiar with Zelda, maybe not. Um, but like you pick up the controller. You pick up the N64's ugly controller. I hate that thing. Anyway,
It's great.
I no, sorry. I'm you you can't argue with me on this. It's terrible. Anyway, not the point. Um, but like it does feel kind of storybook in the way it presents itself. Um, where like it feels kind of fairy tale like with the setup and everything. And then you wake up, you start controlling Link, you move around, you're figuring out who exactly you are supposed to be among the members of Kokiri Village, because right off the bat, it's just like, well, yeah, Link has green clothes, but he doesn't look like anyone else in the village. Like he very clearly looks like a different person. Like he's a child, but he towers over everybody almost. Um, and uh, yeah, I don't know. Like it was just interesting because it's kind of like just trying to put myself in like that, not just the mindset of playing this back at the time, but thinking about like how I would have reacted uh when I was like the same age as many people who when they first played this game, and just trying to understand like, okay, like what would catch people, what would their reactions to be to some of these things. And like it's pretty tough because I'm well aware of a lot of the settings of later Zelda games. Um, I will say, I was surprised by like I was surprised by like how fairly easily it plays up to a certain point. Um, and it doesn't like there was never a point where I felt necessarily uncomfortable, um, like trying to figure something out. Um, Unfortunately, I kind of stopped after, for some reason, uh, getting stuck on Volvagia, which is a boss way later into that game. Um, but up to
You
that
never
point,
you never beat it?
yeah, like I got to that point, I was gonna pick it up again, but then like I kind of stopped. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why, because I told myself I would go back to it eventually, but yeah, I do feel bad though, because I think like I think like I was pretty close to the end basically after that. Like that was basically the last boss I had to fight before fighting Ganon. Um, but uh yeah, I can kind of see like why it's endeared by a lot of people. At the same time, it's still just like there are definitely cracks in that game where it doesn't necessarily make the game a flaw. It's just like it just makes it a product of its time, because there are certain things about that game where it's like, well, you know, like you still had to save manually, I think, for the most part. And then oh shoot, what was it? I guess it's like, and I don't know, maybe this is just sort of like how I personally feel about adventure games, because I don't normally collect stuff. So I would sometimes run into a problem where I didn't have a certain I didn't have enough of certain items. So then I would have to go back to a certain area to find a particular enemy that had that item. Um, so there was kind of a bit of backtrack. And also, and I don't know. I guess in this case, it's more like a personal gripe for me, as opposed to like an outright objective criticism of the game. But I feel like some of the side quests are a bit too obtuse. Um, Maybe not as obtuse as Majora's Mask. I know some of the things in that game are pretty wild, but there were some things where it was just like, man, this feels so out of the way. If I just felt like I wanted to continue the story, I probably would have just missed this altogether. Um,
Well, that's why it's a side quest.
hmm?
That's why it's a side quest,
Yeah,
right? Like,
well, no, that's true, but I just mean like there wasn't really anything other than just like going, just like deciding to go in another direction. Like I wasn't thinking like, oh, there's something in the distance. I'm gonna go over there first before going to the next story point.
so I do think this has changed. If you look at like I played Bravely Default 2 in February,
Mm-hmm.
and like the side quests, there are you go into town, there's blue markers everywhere. The game wants to be like, go do this, go do this, go do this. Look at all those ways you can waste time, so that I can say this game took you 200 hours to beat. Whereas like back in the day, when you go back to Final Fantasy 6 or 7 or Ocarina of Time, side quests were secrets. Like it used to be like you were in the know if you found this ultra weird secret thing that you could do, and it was like more of an exclusivity thing. And now it's like, no, side quests should be like, go here, do that thing, do that thing. I mean, like developers have changed it so they want you to like chase the little rat carrot everywhere. And it used to be the carrot was buried underground and you had to dig for it.
Well,
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
rewarded exploration.
yeah, and like I think it's good. I think it's good that um there are still games that reward exploration as opposed to just being told where everything is. That's not necessarily my problem. My problem is like um, I feel like there aren't enough contextual clues, if that makes sense, to finding a lot of these, to finding some of these side quests. Although, granted, even when I played Ocarina of Time, this was also quite a while ago, so I don't remember off the top of my head. But I do I can't say for a certainty there's only certain things that I knew just because I was told about them by somebody else. Uh,
What else are you gonna talk about on the bus?
like who I had a crush on, if I wanted to trade Pokemon, uh, but no, um, yeah, like I didn't walk away with it thinking like, oh, this game is absolutely perfect, but I do understand, um, I do understand at least in some small way why there would be uh, sentimental value to it. Um, I'm not gonna say it's the most fun I have had with a Zelda game. Personally, for me, uh, I definitely enjoyed um, when I played. I definitely enjoyed my time playing Breath of the Wild a little bit more. Although personally, I was more of a fan of A Link to the Past on Game Boy Advance. But granted, I was in middle school when I played that game, so I had a lot more time compared to when I played Ocarina of Time, which was in college. Um, but yeah, I guess for me, it's like it's not necessarily hard to enjoy older games, but I will say I think it really depends on like I think it really depends on like the type of game you're playing because I kind of have this passing fascination with Western RPGs like the Wizardry and Might and Magic series. The only problem is like playing those older games are are like impossible because they require so much prior knowledge to playing those games. Like like on my computer right now, I have a shortcut for Wizardry 8 and I only booted it up once because I was flabbergasted by character creation for that game. And character creation in Wizardry 8 is nuts. Like it's not like it's not like Western RPGs today, like with Skyrim, where it's like, oh, you'll get like 8 races to choose from, and 5 of them are human. It's like, no, Wizardry 8 has like Wizardry 8 has like 16 races of fantasy to choose from, and 25 classes that you can choose from, and it wants you to make a party out of all of them. So you could you could possibly you could possibly set yourself up for immediate failure if you didn't know how to organize uh certain characters and know like uh party composition up to a certain degree, because it kind of requires like understanding D&D to a certain extent as well. um and it's like I kind of live for that stuff, but it also takes too much time to really get set up is my problem with that game. and and even then, by the time I got into that game and then I got into my first battle, although I did manage to win, I wasn't sure if I was winning, if that makes any sense. Like I'm just like completely lost. I'm fighting I'm fighting what appears to be like sea anemones or something, just on the beach. And and they were kicking me pretty hard, surprisingly, and I didn't understand why. But then I realized, oh, it's because my mage is up in front. In fact, all my party members are up at the front. I should probably move my weaker characters to the back so they can safely shoot spells instead. Uh, like I would say in my case, it's sort of like it just takes a certain amount of time for me to understand certain games. But I think, but I think for me, it's kind of a combination of like um, I have to be compelled enough by the story, but the gameplay also has to be interesting enough, or at least bearable, where I can just like keep going without having to think about it too much. Anyway, that was a pretty long tangent. Just to make those final 2 points. I apologize for that, but
Should we end with maybe one 20-plus-year-old game you're still eager to get to?
do I even have any? Uh,
I've got a couple I can mention. There's one that I has not been released in the US yet. It's still driving me nuts. So on the Super Nintendo, I played Illusion of Gaia. I don't know if you guys ever played that game, which probably
yes, I
doesn't hold
have.
up as much. Probably doesn't hold up as much as I remember because I played it when I was a kid. But there was a sequel called Terradigma that was localized in English and released in the United Kingdom and never released here. And I do not understand why this has not made it to the SNES Online if they already have the localization done. So I would love to check that out. And then I have a list from a few years ago of like there was a Reddit post in like 2017, 2018 where people voted on the top 100 RPGs of all time. And so I've been going through that and playing everything that wasn't M rated. And so I've got a few left. There's two that are actually I can buy still on the PS Store on the PS5 that I think were PS2 games that were then ported to be playable on PS4. And those are Rogue Galaxy and Dark Cloud 2. I don't know what year those are from. Those might not be 20 years old, but
How did
those
you
are on my
pick? How
list.
did you pick two JRPGs that I've played as a kid?
Because when you were a kid was apparently when I was in college. I guess I
Also,
don't know.
to be fair, those were made by the same company, so I think it's
That's
entirely
probably why
possible.
they're both still listed. Are they worth $15 a piece in 2021?
Okay, let me level with you real quick. Did you ever play Dark Cloud 1?
No.
Okay, then you're fine playing Dark Cloud 2. Um, I know for some people they did not enjoy Dark Cloud 2 as much as Dark Cloud 1. And while I never played Dark Cloud 1, after seeing some gameplay of it, I do understand that sentiment. Um, Rogue Galaxy, uh, for $15, I would say yes, but understand that like it's a bit of a slog, but I would say but ultimately it's a fun mess to get through.
All right, all right. It's basically I've got 23 games left on my backlog, and once I knock all those out, I'm gonna treat myself. So I've got them on my wish list. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy these janky RPGs once I clear out the rest of my
Yeah.
backlog.
They are pretty janky, I will say, but
Why is that a reward? I don't know.
I would say the gameplay for me was decent enough that I just kept going, that I wanted to see the story through to the end. I will say for Rogue Galaxy, the story is is definitely a lot more interesting than what's going on with Dark Cloud 2. Uh,
All right, all right.
Rogue Galaxy is pretty wild, I will say. It's basically like every space. It's basically like every space sci-fi show you've ever seen stuffed into a Japanese anime. If that makes any sense.
Okay, I'm on board.
Yeah. Uh, couldn't you? Well, couldn't you? For Terra Enigma, couldn't you make a European account and play it
Is it
from
on?
like
Is it on SNES Online for them?
it?
Because I thought about a friend told me I should do this for Japan because Mystery of the Emblem, the Fire Emblem game, is on there.
Yeah, but the problem is
But
like
I don't read Japanese,
yeah, that's in
so.
Japanese. That's the problem. That's why I
But
can't
if
play
Terra Enigma is,
SMT1 on there.
I think I looked this up, and I think Terra Enigma is not on the UK SNES Online because I honestly debated this,
Yeah.
but
No,
I don't think it's on there.
yeah, no, it's not. This is just some article saying we still haven't received Terra Enigma. Nintendo, why won't you give us Terra Enigma as well
Yep,
as
sounds
Soul
right.
Blazer and so on and so forth. Oh yeah, I think I also wanted to play Terra Enigma. Yeah, because this is the gameplay is fairly similar to Illusion of Gaia as well, right?
Yeah, I think it's a sequel. I don't know if it's just a spiritual sequel or if it's a plot sequel, but I think it was intended as Illusion of Gaia too.
Mm-hmm. Uh, David, what about you? Any games as old, just as old as you want to get there?
Uh, Hang on a second. I want to see if the game I'm thinking of is actually as old as me, real quick.
Well, I will say for me, Tokimeki, Tokimeki Memorial for the PlayStation is on there. Unfortunately, I don't know Japanese enough, so that's a pretty big hurdle to get over.
Maybe if you could just read their emotions, you'll figure out how to click the right thing
You
just based
can't.
on their.
You can't. There's. I mean, technically you can, but I would feel remiss to do that if I don't understand the answers that I'm saying to them. So
Love is the universal language, Sam. By the way, I know some people that have played some of the Trails games that weren't translated. So like Trails from Zero and Trails of what's the second one called? Trails of Azure. They played it with a Google Sheet. Like they had a Google Sheet up of all the all the text in the whole game, which these games have tons of text in them.
yeah,
Like some of the gaming games, and then there's like a corresponding Google Sheet, so you have to like find where you're at and like, oh, that means this. I don't. That cannot be an enjoyable experience.
I don't think it was, but
Could be if you're learning Japanese.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe it's kind of like immersion, teaching you the language, huh?
I might enjoy that.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
Joe
the
used
game
the.
I'm.
Go ahead.
No, you first.
Joe used a phrase the other day about he called he called Jonathan Floyd nuttier than a squirrel turd, and that's kind of how I feel about that.
oh boy.
So yeah, the game I'm looking forward to it finally getting to is Final Fantasy VI. Haven't played anything really prior
Oh,
to 7.
okay. Good thing I didn't spoil.
Well, I think I've heard it before. I just don't remember what it was.
Perfect.
By
John
the
just
time I
played
finally
that.
get there.
I think John just played it like a year ago, and he was like, "Holy crap, this is great."
Yeah.
I think Adam did too, didn't he?
I think I hadn't played it when he was a kid.
I
Oh, okay.
remember John telling me when he was going through that game, and I told him like, yeah, like I was like, just like I was telling you through college, you probably should play that game, and you never did until you decided to start writing. Why didn't you do that? It's like it's like he, for whatever reason, he never exactly believed me, I think, or maybe not. I hate to do this to him because I know, because he doesn't work for Geeks Under Grace anymore, so it kind of feels like I'm
Hold
outing
on, we're
him
thinking
out.
of two different Johns. Which John are you talking about?
Oh, is this a different John? Okay, never mind.
I'm talking about Jonathan Floyd.
Oh, okay, okay.
I was like, "How did you knew him in college? What? What?"
No, I was talking about
But
John Campbell, but
oh, did you know him before Geeks Under Grace?
yeah, we went to college together,
Oh, I didn't know that. But
or
yeah,
rather,
feel free.
we met at college.
You can pick on him. Go for it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I could, but I already do that to him as a friend anyway, so I should probably lay him off here. Um,
But yes, everybody should play Fantasy Six. Although I don't know the best way to play it because I mean, is it on the? It's not on SNES on the line. You can play it on phones, which I don't know. There's just something
I
about playing things on phones.
I have it on Steam, which I know Adam said don't do that because it's terrible, apparently. But it's the most practical way for me to do it. So
So I think you're right.
yeah,
I think really the best way to do it is just get either the PlayStation version or the Game Boy Advance version.
The Game Boy
The
Advance
problem
ports
is
were
like
good.
every version has a problem. That's the thing. Every version has a problem, and that's terrible. Uh, but anyway, in my case, there's another game which kind of has a few more hurdles around it, not just because it's Japanese only, but also it was an Xbox title, not Xbox 360. I mean original Xbox. So, um, Shin Megami Tensei 9, which was, and sorry, before I get ahead of myself, this is not the ninth title in the Shin Megami Tensei series. It is called Shin Megami Tensei colon 9, as in Nine.
No.
No, it's not German. It's just the number 9, but spelled out. So it's not the ninth Shin Megami Tensei.
I really thought you said NEIN when you spelled it out.
It's like
My
maybe
bad.
I did, but
No, you were right. I was wrong.
yeah, but um yeah, like that's one of the few games where can't really play it because of the console and also the language barrier. So there's that. And this other one, while I did play it, I never completed it. It's it's a 2D treasure game. Uh, that was released on the Mega Drive called Alien Soldier. I actually have this game through the Sega Mega Classics edition, which I highly recommend. That's a fun collection to have. And Alien Soldier, um, the best way I can describe it is, have either of you played Gunstar Heroes?
no.
Was that ported to Game Boy Advance?
Yes, it was.
I think I played like 5 minutes of it.
Okay. So
Because
Alien Soldier is like Gunstar Heroes, where two I'm gonna get butchered by people, but um, it's essentially like Sega's version of Contra, but you can switch between guns. But you can switch between guns in that game, and you have um, more motions. Like I think you can double jump maybe in that game. But Alien Soldier basically takes that to the next level and is essentially a character action game in a 2D platformer. I am not kidding when I say that. It literally feels like I'm playing Devil May Cry in a 90s 2D platformer game.
That's a pretty high praise.
It's really good. Unfortunately, it's really hard. It's probably one of the harder. It's probably one of the hardest 2D platformer shooters I've ever played.
I'm
Um,
out.
and that I guess that's basically it. Wait, hang on. Is there was there a JRPG on the SNES that I want to play? Uh, Derek, help me out here. Um,
SNES JRPGs, the
yeah.
ones that made it over here. I'll mention one that is an option now for people. When I was a kid, I played a fan translation of Seiken Densetsu 3. And if you like Secret of Mana, it is better than Secret of Mana. It was the game after that. So there's Final Fantasy Adventure was the first one,
Right.
Secret of Mana was the second one, and then the third one never came out. And then they did all these other Mana games later. But they released it on the Switch two different ways, which is really weird. But Trials of Mana, they released a package called Collection of Mana where they released the Super Nintendo game, and then they also remade the game in like a modern 3D setting separate.
Yeah, they did. Um,
And I
that
haven't
that
played.
version I
I've
have, but not the collection one.
I see. So I downloaded the demo for the new one, but I couldn't convince myself to do it again. But as a kid, I thought it was good. But as a kid, I also thought Secret of Mana was good, and I don't
Hmm.
think it holds up. I don't think it holds up.
Yeah, the new version. I wouldn't say it's bad. It just feels kind of flat. Cause
Yeah,
what I imagine is they basically just did a one for one recreation of the story itself. Well,
I think that's right.
uh, but oh no, you know what? It literally the remastered version literally just came out. Uh, Romancing Saga. That's one of the games I
Okay.
wanted to play. So yeah, I got to get
So
that.
you mean Saga Frontier, or you mean Romancing Saga?
Yes, Saga Frontier. That's the one.
Yeah, I am curious. I never played Saga Frontier either, but I watched the trailer. I put it on my wish list. If I get some extra gift cards or something, I might get the remastered because it does look pretty cool.
Yeah,
Maurice thought, which is kind of funny because Maurice gives people crap about thinking games are hard all the time.
yeah.
So I kind of, man, I missed an opportunity. I should have told him to get good. I
What?
might just go back and do that.
Oh my goodness. Get good, really?
Well, he was giving Malachi crap for thinking Celeste is hard, and I'm over here like, yeah, I give up halfway
Oh
through.
right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. Okay. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, but the biggest thing I was really interested in about Saga Frontier is the fact that like um, there were essentially like several different storylines you could play through. Um,
Yeah,
so I was
there
like,
was a
oh wow, that's crazy. Like
in that era. I feel like Square was very adventurous, and for the most part, it paid off.
yeah. Oh, what the heck? Oh, that's interesting. Uh, apparently the remastered the remastered version was handled by Studio Bullets, who also did who also did the port for Uppers, which I did a review quite a while ago, which is pretty interesting because like their only other credit their only other credit is the Kenka Bancho series for the PSP, um, which I'm not sure if I talked about on the podcast before, but it's essentially a Yakuza Light for the PlayStation Portable. Um, that's interesting. I thought that studio was honestly dead, but I guess they're still surviving. So hey, that's cool. I'm happy about that. Just another reason to get it then. But yeah, with that, things are winding down, so I guess that'll be it. If you'd like to tell us any 20-year-old games you'd like to get your hands on, feel free to leave a comment down below. And don't, no, I'm not going to do that again. But seriously, if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a comment if you want, and subscribe to the channel, and leave a like if you just like the stuff we're doing with the podcast. Really appreciate it. It definitely helps. And and we'll just wrap it up right there. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.